Hello, and welcome along to the stream tonight. I hope that everyone's doing okay. It's been a busy week for me so far. I know it's only the start of the week, but it's been a busy day so far. Hello, Kim, and hello, Maurice, in the chat room. Good to have you along again. I I hope everything in this still COVID pandemic global thing that's going on is still all good. Kids are back to school over here, so things are changing. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun. So tonight's stream is hopefully it's going to be a continuation of. Hello, Artur. How's it going? Tonight's stream is going to be a continuation of working on GitReleaseManager. So we got so far last week. There's still some work to be done. Through the week, I had been working on some cake.recipe stuff. So I'm kind of doing the two things at the same time in terms of open source projects at the minute. But cake.recipe is getting about yay close to getting the 2.0 release out the door. Over the weekend, in between playing with the kids, I was doing some documentation effort for some much needed documentation effort for cake.recipe. There's one piece of documentation that still needs to be done, which is how you upgrade a project that's already using the 1.x version of cake.recipe, and how do you switch over to using the latest version that has a bunch of breaking changes. So that's where we are, and yeah, it's so close. It's been so long in the making. Kim's done a lot of work on it, so it'd be good to finally get that out the door. But for tonight, we're looking at GitReleaseManager. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about. I've been having where we left it last week. We were looking at how you get the EditorConfig file to work correctly in Visual Studio. So I had a couple of conversations with Kim about that, and also some of the Cake guys and how they do some things in their project. So I want to go back to that at some point. I want to finish that work off. So yeah, there are still some issues. Yes, Kim. So I'm going to leave those in your capable hand, because my understanding is that those issues are mainly Linux related. Is that fair? And I don't actually have a box that I could spin it up and have a play with it on. Plus, I probably wouldn't be much help, to be honest. The very capable hands. So yeah, I mean, if we can dust those off and get those working, that'd be great. There is the issue with the tools manifest file and the changes made to the build script that we need to look at as well. And yes, specifically with .NET Core. You can do it with a GitHub action. Yep. So we have a GitHub Actions built. It's more for me being able to play with it locally. Is what I'm getting at, Maurice. GitHub Actions is great, obviously, but being able to tinker with it and play with it locally as well. I'm not set up for Mac and Windows to play with it locally, but I don't have a Linux box to hand. And we've noticed some differences between some of the changes that Kim's made from Linux perspective doesn't work on Mac, and vice versa. So that's what I was getting at there. But one of the main things that I wanted to talk about today was so there's a PR that came in from Artur into GitReleaseManager. I want to talk it through that. And I want to get this PR from Dependabot merged in, and then like I say, I want to look at the EditorConfig stroke StyleCop stroke FXCop analyzers and get all that up and running. So like I said, I was having a chat with Patrik on the Cake team, and he's given me some things to look at there. So that's the plan of attack. If anybody's got any questions, suggestions, concerns, feel free to bring those up. But I guess we should start with this one. So this one is this is the PR that Artur put in, which extends or starts to extend GitReleaseManager to have the concept of template-based release notes. So at the minute, when you use GitReleaseManager, you run grm create, and what you get, so if we were to look over here at a set of release notes that have been created before, we look over here, then what you get is a structured set of release notes that are grouped by the label that the issue is labeled against, and then you have the list of issues, and then you also potentially have the inclusion of the hashes of the files that are assets on the release. You also have the potential of a footer being included, and there is some other configuration that you can do in terms of things that get added or not to the release notes. Now, all of that is essentially hard-coded. Now, you can manipulate some things in here, but to all intents and purposes, it is a fixed structure. So what Artur has started working on, and it's been something that's been it's been spoken about within the team for a little while. It's the concept of having a template. So if we look at what the contained within the PR, I did have a quick look at this earlier in the week, but I didn't get to a point where I had kind of combined all my thoughts yet. But in terms of the changes, that's just adding in the template. These are the tests. So well, let's leave the tests for a minute and come back to actually what's happening. So the create command, it had added in the template file path. It's using, so the suggestion from Artur is to use Scriban. Now I've heard very good things about Scriban. I've never used it, but I know that Martin on the Cake team has used it, and they have nothing but good things to say about it. The original suggestion, I think, for any sort of templating was to look at handlebars, but I think the consensus was to use Scriban. So the fact that this is getting added in is great. This was the template file path. This was a new yes, absolutely. So Artur saying it came from Kim. So I think originally Kim was looking at handlebars, and then he found Scriban, or he played with Scriban and found that he was happy with it. So that's a new option into the create sub options, which is the template file path. So that makes sense. That is going into the string that is the template text, which is there. So I think this is where the guts of the work is happening. So we'll come back to this one in a sec. Let's just look at what other changes have happened. So this is, let's come back to that one in a sec as well. Let's have a look at some of the other changes. So this one was, oh, no. Those are the tests. So here we're passing in the default template, and then the default template, and then the template file. Okay, fine. So let's have a look here. So this was create release note from milestone. That would have been passing in the template file path. From here, come on, code, what are you doing? So template text is then the release notes template.default. It's then checking to see if the template file path exists. If it does, it is reading all of that text into the template file content, checking to see if it's not empty, and then that's what ultimately gets passed through. So this part here, I think, makes sense to me. The template, the default template here. Now, this is the part that I haven't looked at yet, but my assumption here, Artur, is that this default template would render essentially the equivalent of what we've got today. So up here, in terms of being grouped by the labels, it's then grouping by the issues and then including the hash and the footer and things as well. So this is the part that I haven't really looked at yet. So let's just have a quick look. So it's then doing part of this release we had that, part of the release we had that. The then includes the milestone description if there is one. So I tend not to include a description. So if we were to edit this on, no, not in that, if we were to look at a milestone that I have here, I tend not to include a description, but it would ultimately render that into there. For issue label and issues labels, then do that, and then for all the issues within that, do that, and then include the footer or not. So the addition of the hash is something that's pegged onto the end as part of the adding of an asset. So that itself wouldn't be included in the template. That part makes sense to me as well. Okay, makes sense. I saw that these changed as well. So I totally get why you made these changes, Artur. Just as a side note, let me just check this before I say too much. Let's just see. Yeah. So what I was going to say about that was this is a small point, but the change from load milestones to load milestone async, it's not strictly it's not strictly related to the issue at hand. So that to me would have been a standalone commit. So for example, that might have just been a maintenance commit. So it would have been open parentheses maint, and then made the method names consistent. So small point, just something to think about maybe, because like I say, it's not strictly related to the creation of the template. It's good to make that change as when you see it, but maybe not just as part of the 217 issue. So just a small point. So this is where the guts of the work is happening. So let's go back up here and see what's happening. So we're adding Screban, we're getting the template text. So that's the unrelated change. Issues, get issues async, so that's because of the name change as well. Previous milestone, get previous milestone. Issues text is string format. Okay, fine. And then footer content configuration dot create dot footer content. Then if we're including that in text, and because we're not doing any of this stuff, ultimately what we're doing here is just building up the content that we would have ultimately been putting out before, and then creating this template context with all of that stuff in it, and then ultimately that's what that gets passed to. I'm assuming that template.parse and template.render are what Screban is bringing to the table, and then what we're returning from there is the rendered template with that context, returning it to there rather than the string builder.build. So all of that part makes sense to me as well so far. So in principle, I don't have any objections to that. Now, I think what you said in the PR was there were some comments from you here, so let's go through those as well. In this first step, I add the Screban library to have a template-based release notes creation. If you agree with the changes, I would, in the next step, add a template option to the create command and update the docs. A question is how it should be handled with the template is set, but the file is not found. Show a warning, use a template, or throw an exception. Okay, so there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about before we get too far ahead, because I know that finish for that one. Let's go over here. So there were some comments from Kim. So Kim was originally assigned this issue. So I think the intention had been originally that Kim was going to provide some of this functionality. And I know there was some discussion regarding how that template was going to be built up. So at the minute, so based on the changes that I'm seeing here, my understanding would be that what's passed in this template option would be, here's the path to an entire template that covers everything. It includes the issues, the footer, basically everything that's rendered. Now, I think I'm right in saying that what Kim had originally suggested in the issue that it would be broken up into individual files. So so like I say, in principle, I have no objections to the work that's gone on here. I'm just curious if will be other work to be done. So are we approaching this incrementally, or is the intention is what we are decided here that we're going to have a single template file, or are we planning on breaking it up into individual ones? And I know there was some discussion around the export side of things as well, and how we go about doing that. But personally, I treat those as two different things, and I think that makes sense in terms of the PR. We've got here's a template being used for the create portion of it, and then potentially we have something else for the exporting. So there's a couple of questions in there that we need to address, and then let me remember what else was said in this issue. So we create basically the same. Yeah, because what I had wondered about, so one of the issues that Kim brought up was in regard to the exporting side of things, was how do we get all the issue information again? Now, what I had wondered is whether we need, or whether we could potentially. Now, I remember having this thought, and I thought I maybe wrote it down, but it doesn't look like I did. I was wondering whether, rather than fetching all the issues, do we have enough information to parse the issue information from the markdown? i.e., we have in here the issue number and the text of the issue. Can we build up the issue information by parsing the markdown, and then use that information to regenerate them again? Or are you looking for additional information in the export? So the no, we don't comment there, what was that referring to, Artur? Sorry. One way could be having a hidden XML comment in the release notes. Okay. I could see how that would work. And then we just omit that in the exported. Because you can create release notes with less information than you want to export. So I think we're talking about the same thing. I think. But let's go back before we get too far into the woods. So let's answer the question with regard to how handle the template. How do we handle the template if the file is not found? To me, if a user has explicitly stated that they want to use a template, and that template file doesn't exist on disk, that to me is an exception. Yeah, I'm in agreement with Kim. I think I'm going to claim that we said it at the exact same time. We should grab the original data from the milestone instead of the render. So let's come back to that. So let's shelve that conversation and let's go back to this one to make sure we're on the same page. So I am agreeing with Kim here, and I'm going to put this in here. And I'm going to say, let's do. That's the wrong Artur. Which one? Oh, so this one. I would suggest that if the user has asked to use a template and that template file doesn't exist, then this should be treated as an error. We should throw an exception indicating that the required file couldn't be found. Okay. Same with an empty template file. Let me just hardcore. If the template file is empty, then this to me is also an exception, and we should throw an error, because otherwise you're rendering nothing to the release notes. So yeah, I think that's the same. I would go with that. So that to me is that. So the only, so in terms of the single, in terms of what you were speaking about, Kim, in the issue with regard to having multiple template files, is that something we should address here, or is that a separate issue? Or how do you see us moving forward with that? Is that something we still want to look at, and having the ability to have segregated? Because I do like the idea of not having to provide an entire template file if all we're doing is changing the footer or the look and feel of the footer. So is that something that we should address here, or we do that as a follow-up issue with so that is more for the export command. My issue is purely for the create command. So let me understand. We can address that later. So in terms of what we have here then, in terms of, this is for the release notes creation, specifically for the creation of the release notes that are sent to GitHub when you run grm create. This is what this issue is addressing. So we're all on the same page with regard to that, correct? So on that basis, we're happy for Artur to continue with setting up updating the docs, finalizing that, throwing the error, and so on, and that would be us in a position to do this, correct? I already have plans to achieve it more easily, hence also the cake. I got you. Okay, so let's continue. So Artur, if you're happy to continue with what's left on here, that would be great. And then we can follow up in another issue, another PR, with what's left in the remaining scope. Yes? I'm going to wait for acknowledgement all round. So we've got one all right. Beautiful. Thank you very much. And from Kim. Oh, he's going to leave me hanging. Oh, he's totally leaving me hanging. Beautiful. Okay, cool. So I should. Maurice is being very quiet in the chat room. Maurice, are you looking at the chocolatey.org moderation queue? Is that what you're up to? Oh, there's a big delay. Oh, sorry. Oh, there's a few drop frames going out. Okay. I'm not seeing the issue that the other issue with regard to encoding. I am mocking things. Are you pestering? Pestering? That a word? So just as a slight tangent, I attacked the moderator queue this morning with some help from Kim, so it's looking a lot better. Pesterizing, is that the official term? Is it? Beautiful, love it. So with some help from Kim, the moderation queue is far better than it was before. But still some work to do, unfortunately. But we'll get there. But the numbers are looking a lot lower than they were before, so we're making progress. Okay, so in terms of GitReleaseManager, pesterizing. I think we should trademark that and go with it. So what I wanted to do was, so I'm completely gung-ho now about this GitHub CLI, Kim. It's just amazing. It really is. I still haven't learned everything that it does, but in terms of the core workflow, it's just amazing. So nothing but good things to say about it. I'm just going to make sure that this is rebased. Oh, this is a dependable one, so I could ask it to do it as well. But let's just check. I think it's maybe already at the head. Let's just check. Yes, so let's just have a look and see what it did. So this was approval tests. That's one that we use as part of our build. So that's just bumping there. So I'm happy with that. And then submit. And then I can change this to be on this. And this is our internal process. That's a build. And I'm going to say go gadget. Now I know I could have done that from the command line as well, but that I haven't got. That I'm not sure how I feel about that one yet. I kind of like pushing the big green button, so don't know about that one yet. But it might go into my workflow. Okay, so that's that done. So let's get this. Git checkout develop. Git fetch upstream. That didn't work at all, did it? Git checkout develop. Git rebase develop. Git push origin. Okay, so the thing that I wanted to look at was associated with the change that Artur recommended with regard to the using statements. So at the minute there is inconsistency between how the using statements are in certain projects, and we needed to basically reconcile those. So that was with regard to this one. So I'm going to create a new issue. Is for it to monitor the checks and only merge. You see that? In general, I would like to see that, Kim, in the UI. Now I know that there is a Git GitHub, not a GitHub. There is a Chrome extension that helps with that, but I would love to see a button at the bottom that says merge once everything is fixed, or once everything is complete and once everything succeeds. I would love to have that button. So rather than sitting waiting for the UI to update with the status checks, I would love to have that in the UI as well. Ooh, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. So I am going to create a new issue, which let's just do as a feature, and then we can play with it. So let's take all. How good am I going to be tonight? Am I going to do it as? I'm going to call this internal refactoring, and for that reason, I'm not going to fill out the template completely. So fully implement. Give me 1 sec. I thought I was going to sneeze, but I didn't. Fully implement EditorConfig, StyleCop, and FXCop analyzers. So I'm going to assign me to this one, and I'm going to say, okay. So I'm going to pick this one up, and I'm going to go over to here and say, I'm going to edit this one again to say that covered by this issue. Okay. So what I basically spoke to a few people about is, so at the minute we have editor config files that are not respected properly. So let's check out a new one here called -285 from develop. Okay. So we have an editor config file in the root of the GitReleaseManager repository, and there's also an editor config file here within the source folder. Now, editor config files work similar. My understanding is editor config files work similar to web.config files and machine.config files. So you can have them at different levels, and you can define different rules and how they apply at different levels. So, so for instance, Patrik on the Cake team, he has an editor config file that he places in the root of all of his repositories, and then on a per project basis, he may drill down into this one and have certain rules for certain projects. So I don't think that that's how these editor config files are being used. If I'm honest, I think they're maybe probably exactly the same. Let's maybe have a quick look and see how similar they are. I don't think they're the same. Joel agrees. Let's call it pasteurizing. So one has a bunch of stuff which is in the source folder, and then in here there's actually very little. So I think what we should do is one of two things. I think we should maybe get rid of these editor config files and start with some new ones. Okay. The other part of this follow-up is that currently we have a GitReleaseManager.ruleset file. Now, having spoken to Patrik, the rule set is going out the window. His understanding is that concept of a rule set is going away, and the functionality of the rule set is going to be replaced by the editor config file. And he doesn't use rule sets anymore. He defines everything at the minute. He defines everything within his editor config file hierarchy, and he still has a stylecop.json file, which we also have here, that defines the things that he hasn't quite brought into the editor config file at the minute. So I think I'm going down this. I think I'm going to suggest that we go down the same route, and we're going to have editor config files at the root level, overriding on a per project basis as we need them, and then we'll switch away from the rule sets and put everything into EditorConfig files and StyleCop.jsons. So that's where I think we're going to go. And now is the time to say stop and don't do that. So let's have a look at what's going on. Kim saying, I even have an EditorConfig file in the test repository in some project. Yes, I think that makes sense as well. The difference is that you can't enforce EditorConfig files during build. Now, I thought Patrik said I could. We should remove the rule set. If we need to remove the warning, it should be hidden in the EditorConfig file or suppressed in the project file with using no warn element. EditorConfig file compression only support Visual Studio. I think that's okay though. So I mean, we're in 2020, so 2019 is not too far removed, and I think we're already on. Have we not already defined that as well? So I think I'm okay with that. I mean, we're not in a position with GitReleaseManager where we are with some other projects where we are constrained by certain upstream things. I think I'm okay with specifying that we need at least MS Build 16 and VS 2019. I think I'm okay with that. So that's where I'm hoping to go with this issue. So if I'm doing anything stupid, feel free to shout out, because the one thing that we are going to need to do is we're going to need to go into. Now I found this. Now where did I find this? It was using here, and it's in code style. Was it in code style? Or was it in here? It was this one. So if you don't have this setting enabled, which is the use editor config compatibility mode, then that part won't be respected. So the editor config file, even if you have them, it won't be respected. So that's the one that we need to enable. And I'm going to find a comment that I got from Kim, which was with regard to doing the same within VS Code. But that for VS Code, you can do that within the VS Code folder. So where did you send that to me? I thought that was in Gitter, but I now don't see it in Gitter. That would have been from, was that in Slack? There are far too many communication mechanisms in the world today. Slack, GitTools.org, so that would have been in here. That would have been in here. Let me find this. I can't find it. Oh no, I found it. I found it. So I'm going to copy this code. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. So we need to document the including of, thank you for that. We need to document the inclusion of that setting in Visual Studio, and then in code, what we're going to say is in VS Code settings.json, we are going to put in this one. So OmniSharp enable editor config support is going to be true, and enable Roslyn analyzers is going to be true as well. So we're going to save that down. Now, for the sake of my sanity, I'm going to delete that editor.config file. Continue. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm just going to delete that as well. and then I'm going to go back up to here and I'm going to delete this one. Okay, so far so good. Right. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to unashamedly steal Patrik's baseline editor config file, right? Did I do the wrong one? Remove the brackets. Hold on, what did I do? Oh, my bad. I wasn't watching there. Thank you for that. Okay. So I'm going to unashamedly steal his baseline editor.config file, and then we can tweak it as we find we have a need for it. Okay. So let's grab this and we'll put that into there, right? And then let's go to his project specific one, which is this one, or where the rules that can fluctuate between one and the other. Grab this and go into our source folder and create a new I don't recall what it said, but we'll may come back to that then. But if it was a restart of OmniSharp, we can also do OmniSharp restart. Is that what they wanted me to do? Do that. Okay. So that's that. And the other thing that Patrik has is he has a stylecop.json where he adds in a couple of other things. So I want to look at what he's doing here. Required assets to build. Sure. Some projects have that one. Okay. So I want to pull in some of, let's see what he's got here. He has got documentation says it does not work. Or does this only apply to style conventions and not? I'm going to leave you two to answer that one. Document interfaces. I'm going to borrow some of his defaults here regarding documentation and see if there are any duplicates, which there are. So we can get rid of that one, get rid of that one, and we can add that in there. Now this one that I'm away to copy over here, we are going to want to change because Patrik doesn't do it properly. So we'll come back to that one in a minute. And then we will do this. Why is that not? Why does that look wrong? Go. So I want to change this to be, we're going to say it's going to be inside because that's the correct way of doing it. New line at the end of file, sure. This one's saying unknown, oh, that's a spelling. So we could fix that. We can fix that. We can fix that. Comments are not permitted in JSON. Take those out just now. Okay. So we've got a StyleCop.json now that's been updated. We removed our rule set, so we'll need to change where that is included, which is here, because it's no longer there. Okay. And the other thing I noticed that he does, let's see if we agree on this one, is he's got, let's do this. Oh, additional files. Oh, it's already there. That's there. StyleCop.json, link to there. And the other one was this one. So has anyone on the chat played with this one? A Roslinator. Gotta love these names. Roslinator analyzers. So we've got StyleCop analyzers, we've got this one, and then we've got code analysis, FXCop analysis. Okay, cool. So I was going to include that one too. So in theory, if we were to look at, well, I'm going to go with it. I'm going to include it. So it's currently analyzing some stuff. Oh, there's 318 problems. Love it. Love it. Okay, so it's doing stuff, which is good. And it is doing stuff along the lines of should appear within the namespace. So we know we've got that part working. So if we go over here, then a new editor config file was detected at the root of your solution. Would you like to include it as a solution item? Yes, I would like to do that. And I also noticed that I wanted to add, this is kind of unrelated, but I'm going to add it in just now while I remember, which is to also include the targets file as well. So we have both of them in there, the props and the targets. Okay. So we should, in theory, start seeing the errors coming through here as well. Using directives must be placed, so that part's working here as well. So one of the things that we were talking about last week was that you can generate an error based on the current style in the projects. We also have Visual Studio Code. So I was aware of that actually. So if I go back to where I was here, just so we can show folks that in code style, you can click this button. So generate editor config file from settings. So this is what Kim's talking about. You can, based on any changes that you've made in your Visual Studio instance, you can say generate editor config file from your current settings within Visual Studio, and that can become your default going forward. Oh, not that one. Which one then? That is from your preferred. Yes. So which one are you talking about then? You can generate an editor config file based on the current style in the projects. Oh, I see. If you have a Visual Studio extension called Visual Studio IntelliCode. Okay, so hold on now. So, oh, I see. Based on the set. Oh, okay, hold on. Let me extensions, manage extensions. I don't know if I have it installed, but I did want to go and make sure that I had the editor config. I don't think I have the editor config extension installed. So let's download that guy. Changes of scheduled, that's fine. And then extensions, manage extensions, installed all. Oh, Visual Studio IntelliCode, I do have it. So you said right click on the solution and then say, what am I looking for? new. What am I missing? Add. Oh, new EditorConfig. I see. This might overwrite something. But okay, so it's going to look at your current project, see what styles are applied across the files, and then generate you an EditorConfig. I like it. There's also work done to migrate the IDE warnings to an analyzer package pre-version made. Oh, hold on. Hold on. You're all just throwing things at me now. Hold on. Let me get this extension installed. There is also work done to migrate the IDE warnings to an analyzer package. Pre-version is here. Microsoft Code Analysis C# code style. So what does this do? Copy that. New tab into here. Stop it. There is also work done to migrate the IDE warnings to an analyzer package. Otherwise, the IDE warnings will show up. I'm not sure I fully understand what's going on there. Can you show me an example, or what? Let me make sure I'm on the same page. Let's wait for this to install. Okay, so let's close that off and let's open this. And let's have a go at fixing some of the errors that were now made errors. Oh, I did. Well, let's have a look. So file, recent projects, GitReleaseManager. Let's have a look. If we go to error list, then I do a build. Previously, IDE warnings were part of VS and therefore not run. I see. So you're saying that this error here wouldn't have been surfaced if I run it through the cake build that we have here. Interesting. But this new package here would surface them as errors, which would appear outside of Visual Studio. Yes, is that what we're saying? So the first thing that I think I want to fix here then, okay, so the question becomes then, should we include this? I'll maybe wait for it to come out as the release version. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to check though, so we're getting the using errors, using directives as an IDE warning, IDE error, but this StyleCop one is only surfacing as a warning. So how do we fix that? So let's add existing item that is my stylecop.json. So how do I make that become an error rather than just a warning? Because I really want it to be an error. Is that where the rule set would have come into play? Or I think that is, okay, so I think, okay. So open the file where the warning occurs. That's a good idea. So that would be this one as an example. Okay. The ball just disappeared. Oh, there we go. Quick actions. Don't want to suppress it. The benefit now is because of these refactorings, I can fix it everywhere. I can fix this rather than having to go through them individually. I can go through them in a whole, but how do I so what do I need to do to make this one appear as an error? That's the first question I'd like to address. But I think you're right that in back up to here, there was something in here with regard to preferred using directive placement. So that I haven't knowingly changed that, but I'm wondering whether, let's have a look at this one, and let's have a look at this one. Let's have a look at my using. See, I don't think this editor.config file has it. So I'm planning on using I'm planning on putting them inside the namespace. Yes, that's the way that I've always done it, and I think Kim's always done it. So I understand that there's a code inconsistency between the two projects, but I think as long as we're clear about it and we specify it, then I'm okay with that. So what I want to know is, how do I put this into my, or do I not? Okay, so I EditorConfig preferred using directive placement. How do I go from here into my okay? That wasn't going to be that wasn't my question, but I think that would help. So we got So that's where this comes into play. So we've already got some of these. I see. Normally this would be possible provided through a code fix. Okay, so if we do this and we say to follow this convention, SA 1200, and the text is copy. Is that going to let me paste that? No. Close. And then change that. Oh, really? That's a good idea. So 1200. No, not in that file. And not in that file. If we save that and go back to here, then, oh, we're getting more errors, I think. Doing some stuff. There we go. There we go. Okay. Happy now, right? So in theory, now, if we say suppress or configure this one, and we do move misplaced using statements, fix all occurrences in solution. Let's do it. See what it does. Let's see what it does. It's thinking. It's thinking. It's rebuilding the world. It really is. So it's. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for it. Oh, look at that! Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, so that should have fixed, hopefully, a bunch of warnings. So let's just force it to rebuild. So we want it 630. Can you please try if adding? So that's the. I did try that, Artur. I did. I still don't think it's going to do it, but let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. How can that still be? You're lying, Visual Studio. You're lying. I think it's still thinking. Let's give it a second. Running low priority background tasks. Background processes. I think it's still thinking. What was that? Message template argument is not. Take the warnings off a second. What was it? Anyone else lost sound? Just wondering. Oh, I see. I have sound. Gary's. Somehow I managed to mute the stream. No idea how I managed to do that. Were you running a folding at home at the same time? Were you burning it out? Okay, so let's go back to Artur's question. So if we come up here and we did what we did last week, which maybe not that one, that's not a good one to do it in. let's go to the CLI project and go to program. So we've got all these lovely usings within the namespace. And if we come in here and we say var test equals file, new file. That's really not what I wanted to do. Right. And then we said in here, add that. Oh, look at that. It did do it. It did. So it put it in the right place. So I think then it's all working. Now I don't have any other, so I knew that the ReSharper extension, it already took care of that, but I don't have ReSharper installed on this machine specifically because I didn't want to use anything that you couldn't do in the non-community versions of things. So I think with this setup, let me just test it. That wasn't a fluke, right? So I say using IO, it put it in there. So it did it, right? So I think that will cover your use case as well, Arthur, I think, right? So let's look at no folding at home at the moment, need the CPU resources for FFmpeg encoding. Ooh. What are you encoding this time? CodeMade could also be used for some of those things. So I don't think I've got CodeMade installed either, but let me just confirm that I don't have any of additional things installed that are doing. So I have CodeMade is there. I don't have CodeMade installed. So the combination of the editor config changes and the IDE integration, I think, is making things work. So that's interesting you say that, Pascal, because at the tail end of last week's stream, it wasn't working. I think I'd done everything that was required, but it wasn't doing that. I was still putting it outside, even though I moved everything else inside. It was still putting it outside, and I went away after the stream and did some additional testing. I still couldn't get it to work, so I'm not sure what I've done to make it work now. I'm happy that I have, but I'm not sure what I did. So that's interesting. I don't know then, because it wasn't working for me. So don't know, but I'm glad it's working. So I don't know then. But I was reading Kim's comment there that he's encoding all the videos I have on my computer, only to have it in my preferred section. There we go. Right, so let's look at what other errors or warnings that we have, and then decide if we need to, one, fix them, and then use trailing comma in multi-line initializers. That sounds like a good idea to me. I'm guessing so that when you add in a new one, it doesn't cause build errors. I'm not against this one. So if we're going to adhere to it, we should make it a error if we're going to do it. So I'm going to say copy that, and we'll go back to our EditorConfig file. And it was 1413 this time. We haven't done anything with it. So I'm going to say that I'm going to say that we're going to adhere to this one. I am making a decision. So I'm going to say copy this, paste this in here, and this is going to be 1413. It was 1413. It was, and that is going to be error, and this is going to be SA colon. I'm going to say that. Okay. So that should run off and make us some errors. And then the beauty of Visual Studio is we should be able to do that for the whole solution. And it'll be apply. Beautiful. So we've got 268. What else do we need to do? Let's see if there's any other obvious ones. We should definitely do that. If there's any other obvious ones that we can get some quick wins on. Need to think about what this one is. See, that is interesting, but I didn't have that happen. I thought we fixed all those. Yeah, you're lying. What are you complaining about? Oh, they're not ordered alphabetically. We should definitely do that too. Why is... I want them alphabetically, folks. So if you're following along, it's going to be alphabetical. Copy. Error. Error. Copy. There is no, indeed. You know me too well. Go here, delete that, go up to here, and say this, and then this is going to be 1210. And we need to lose that at the end there. So that should give us some more errors. And then if we click on this and we say reorder using statements, then we can do that in the solution as well. The using stuff for me works with Visual Studio default settings. I currently have using set to out of namespace, but if they are inside the namespace, they use code fix, yes, in there. Garden batch code fix, yes, that is available in plain Visual Studio. EditorConfig is more about having per project styles than making any fixes. Love it. Okay. What other things can we fix? Right, what's this one all about, folks? Serialog. Message template argument arg.na is not a constant. What does that mean? Add argument name message template. Add argument name message template, include trailing comments. Unwrap, suppress, or configure issues. This doesn't make sense in the context of a test. This one should be ignored on the unit test project. Okay. So does that mean we create another EditorConfig file in the root of the test projects, and then change the severity there. So we change it to ignore, but of course not in tests. Okay, you could do that, or add a no warn element. Oh, I see, in the projects. Okay, so that's what you were referring to earlier. So that would be in this project, no warn on, what was it? Serilog 004. So here, Serilog 004, that right? Serilog 004. Yes. And then if I grab that and copy it and go into this one, then we can put this in here, and then this in here. This is the advantage of rule sets, that you can have a rule set for projects and one for tests, and then add them to the project without duplicating the settings. Fair? So this one, RCS, I think this is one that we're going to want to not warn on as well. Because from a test perspective, we don't necessarily care. So I think I'm okay with in theory, we could have a props file. I think this is really what Kim's getting at. You add it in one place. So we may have to refactor what we're doing here. But that was RCS 1079. 1079. So let's put this in here, and let's put this in. Oh. Undo. Put this in here. Save, and then save. Why is that not updated? See if we can force it. How exciting is this? Watch me fix bugs or fix errors and warnings. This has been a nice learning curve, though. I'm quite happy with what we've done so far tonight. If we can get this down to around about 100, I think I'd be happy. Blue, there we go. Why is that? Just no. Gotcha. Why is this one not going away? Do I need a global suppressions.cs file for this one? I don't really want to put it in source. I didn't think we should need to either. Make sure there wasn't a typo. So it was RCS 1079. RCS 1079. Got that right? RCS 1079. How to suppress a diagnostic. This is from Roslinator. Rule set. Press diagnostics. Press. Namespace. Globe. Yeah, no, I rebuilt as well, Pascal. Okay. That's done a similar thing today where something wasn't working. I rebooted and I switched off and rebooted my VM and everything started working again. It was great. So open this one. Let's see what this does. It should be. It's there. It's there. Why is it still there? Oh, I see what you're saying. As in... Oh, do I have to get a new version? I don't think I've got the most recent version on here. Is that what this means? Yeah, I need to update it. Oh, that's a good question. Are the warnings from the same project? I thought I went through them all. So that is in the GitReleaseManager.tests, GitReleaseManager.tests, and then RCS 1079. Maybe's. That would be somewhat annoying. Be somewhat annoying. I mean, if it needs must, then let's, in a suppression file, let's move it out. So let's that put it into here. Nope, that put it into here, and then here, and then let's cut this from there, put this into here, and then let's do add existing item. Let's go up to here, add as link, and then let's do this one, add listing item, up level, add as link, and then this one, add existing item, up a level, add as link. Beautiful. Okay, save all of those things. And hopefully these should go away. But then this doesn't make sense to have in here anymore because it's not being overridden from there. Let's get those removed. Okay. And let's see if we can get the number of errors or warnings down. Yeah, I've been down that road as well, Kim. But I'm happy to have the additional checks that ROSLiner brings. There's just a slight discrepancy in terms of how they're all overridden. So let's see if we can get rid of these ones now. Yeah. Oh, that's the thing. Oh, that's a thing, isn't it? Because it's not, it is per line, isn't it? No. No, that's a big oh, that will give us a StyleCop warning because we need to give a justification. Why is this one not running? Oh, so it's scoping it to, I see. You only suppressed, I did only suppress the one. So can I do this? Hard to read. Can I do that? To say, why is this? Move redundant suppression. No. What about if I do? How do I? What if I do that? What if I do this? Actually, I don't like that. Set the scope. Okay. And then in target, specify the namespace. Okay, so scope is namespace and descendants. And then in the target, you want me to make that the namespace. So the namespace was this one. Let's see what that does. Oh, look at that. Genius. So in here then, we would need to copy, paste, paste. So this would be dot integration tests, I hope. Are you telling me that that is invalid or missing? GitReleaseManager dot core dot tests. Oh, so you're saying if I look at it over here. Ah, okay. So that's fine, I think. That's fine, I think. Progress being made. Progress being made. Let's see what else we can fix in here. See, this is one I've always. What are your collective thoughts on this one? So the documentation summary text should start with gets or sets. I've always adhered to that, but I'm curious what your thoughts on it are. Gets or sets the details about the issue comments. So you would agree that we should include gets or sets. So we would make this an error as well. So SA 1623 becomes an error. Do we collectively agree? To have consistent comments. Beautiful. Okay. So back over here then. So I'm maybe going to have to go back and fix all of these so they're in the right order, because they're not currently. Ooh, controversial. But since it is documentation, I suggest keeping it as a warning. Controversial. Okay. Gets or sets details about gets or sets the issue comment ID. Look at that. Single-handedly saving the world here. Gets or sets the name of the label. I'm going to copy and paste this part now, but it should still be specified. Okay. Let me fix some of these. The color of the label. Gets or sets a short description of the label. So what you're suggesting then is we would borrow a warning. So let's have a look and see where the closest SA16 is. I don't understand why they're not in order. I'm going to have to go and fix that later. 1623 and 1623 had the text of copy, paste, gets or sets, cut. This one, 1623, warning. So we're just being explicit about that then, is what we're saying. Okay. Can I order by, there we go. Oh, you see, a single line comments. See, that to me needs to be fixed too. Such a pedantic. Never mind. Edit, undo. Gets or sets the maximum number. Copy. Gets or sets the number of requests. Gets or sets the. So far, so good. See, that's a 15. See, that to me is that's a big no-no. 1507. I'm going to put that one in. 15. Copy. 1507. I'm just going to go on a rampage now. Copy. Shouldn't have started this. $15.07. That's an error. It has to be. I've made an executive decision. That needs to be an error. Because it's just bad form. Oh. Where was the extra line then? Oh, we fixed it. That one needs to be an error. Yeah, 1638. 1630, we had one of those already. Copy. 1638. Error. Why does it keep jumping to the output? Copy. File header. Match the name. Cut. Paste. 38. Save. Discard option. That's what it's meant to say. What are you complaining about? Oh, there's no discard sub options. Sorry, I read that wrong. Discard sub options. This is base VCS. Oh, controversial. So the file name is VCS sub options, but the class is called. That's controversial. What is it that this test explorer keeps moaning about? Oh, is that the problem? I want you to live with there so that you stop. There we go. That's better. This one. What are our collective thoughts on this one? This is one that I typically adhere to as well. And I normally make it an error. SAL. Oh, definitely going to reorder these. SA 1122. I'm not hearing anyone say +1. Pascal saying +1. 22. 22. Error. Copy. So my new aim for this evening is to get below 100. And if I can get below 100, then I think that's a good night. The benefit historically is, well, let's read up on it, shall we? Because typically they give you some warnings. A violation of this rule occurs. This will cause a compiler to embed a string into the compiled code rather than including a hard-coded empty string. Use the, so it's basically, it's an optimization from in the compiled code. So because what it's saying is, this will cause the compiler to embed an empty string in the compiled code rather than including a hard-coded empty string using the static string.empty property. It is also more explicit in terms of reading it, yes. So I concur. So I'm going to click on here and I'm going to say replace with string.empty. Oh, why didn't that give me the option to do it everywhere? Replace with string.empty. Oh, there it goes, sorry. In the solution, there we go. Go gadget fix. It's one of those that I always got in the habit of doing typically. Because, well, I mean, when I started off using StyleCop, I just kind of applied all the default rules, and I kind of muscle memory got into the habit of doing string.empty. So some of these things that you forget why, but you just know that it's a good idea. Use string comparison. So that's just a given, but I'm not going to do that one today. Come back to that one. What else can we fix? Because that's all the style. That's most of the StyleCop ones. What's this one complaining about? Field console full template should not contain an underscore. Why? Remind me why it wants to not do that. A violation of this rule occurs. Underscore fields and variables should be called named using descriptive readable wording which describes the function of the field or variable. Typically these names can be written using camel case and not use underscores. For example, customer blah blah blah. So what do we think about this? Remember the code analyzer that was discussed in Kate Contrib Home that I'm working on? I've been pondering a suggestion of making it more general. I did happen to see that, Kim. I saw that that was been changed. What do we think about this? Should this just be console full template rather than console underscore full underscore template? What do we think? I think I've always historically done const as underscores, but I'm willing to change that. What do we think? I'm definitely not going to rename it to. I'm not going to scream at it. Stay with my opinion. So we're going to turn this one off. So hold on, I'm confused by what you're saying there, Pascal. You're saying your team StyleCop. So that would mean that you would change this, or I think I'm gonna. Still not clear on your. I'm still not clear on your answer. Are you saying that this should be? Are you saying that we should remove the underscores and change it to Pascal case? So we've got, because if that's the case, we have 2 for leaving as is, 1 you to change it, and me on the fence. So so confusing. Text and so to clarify, I think what Pascal wants is this. Pascal wants console full template rather than console underscore full underscore template. I think I'm in this camp, to be honest. So it's 3 against 1. So I'm going to say that we're going to override this and say none. How's that sound? So SA 1310. Consistency is key. And I don't disagree with consistency is key, but how do we enforce that? Can we enforce? Well, no, just in terms of general, just don't use underscores. Would enforce that. You're making me wonder now. I only use Pascal case for methods, classes, and properties. So why is this one not complaining? Because this contains an underscore at the top, so it's a type of Hungarian notation. So why is that not complaining? No. So what I'm saying, Pascal, is if we essentially, if we were going to leave this in play in terms of being consistent everywhere, how would we then enforce that this case is used for all consts? Can we do that? But it doesn't specifically say for it just says field here. Oh, it's because it's static as well. My style preferences are all uppercase with underscores for constants, camel case with underscore prefix for read only, and normal fields. Maybe Roslinator has a rule, or use another one, or you write your own. Maybe. So, yeah, I've made a decision. So I'm going to say copy. Okay, so we're looking for SA 13.1, I think it was. 13.10. 13.1. We don't have a 13.10, so we're going to put it into here. And then we'll copy that, we'll paste that, make this a 13.10. We'll make this a 13.10. Field. Oh, so it's already Patrik is already overriding that one, so that's why we're not seeing that for field aims should not. So I'm going to put that on. Fixed it. Fixed it. Right, we're getting close. We've got 9 minutes left. The rest are code analysis errors. This is our one, it's a quick fix. What was that? Why do you keep jumping? Remove. Oh, it's moaning about my global suppression.cs. Remove unnecessary suppressions. Might have to fix that. There'll be 3 of them, I bet. Oh, there's more than that. So you can define the naming convention in the EditorConfig file as well. I forget how right now, but I can try to figure out. That would be great, but I don't think you will get a warning from one of the analyzers for it. Could be wrong, but only in Visual Studio. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, I was hoping to get to under 16, but I've got 7 minutes. The behavior of string can vary based on replace this call to iFormat provider. So what's it saying? So it wants to change this to, oh, hold on. I'll maybe come back to that one, Kim. So let me open that so I can read that later. What now? Expression value is never used. So it wants us to remove the @ symbol. Resulted in I'm curious about this one now before the so the format one is it wants a format provider. And that's exactly what it wants us to do. It wants us to do that. Still complaining. But it also wants us to remove that. Seems like there's a lot of things wrong with this line. And then it also wants us to put a it seems like there was 3 things wrong with this line. stop it. So that would be I think there's lots of things wrong with this line. But I mean, all of this, well, all of this becomes moot though. So all of this section becomes moot based on the work that R2 is doing in the other PR, because we're no longer using the string builder, because it's now all becoming a template. So all of those ones become moot. So I'm going to leave the string builder as it is. So yeah, I've got 2 minutes, but there's lots of 1305s, 1307. The behavior of string.index could vary. Consider using string.contains if, invert if. Consider using string.contains instead of you get used to it now that you can write in. Leave it as for next Pascal, so true. Doesn't make it better from a culture point of view. Indeed, it makes it worse, as long as the string could be possible. Yeah. I'm going to say that string.contains is better. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I've done it. Based on your user locale, replace the call to create figlet, a call to string.contains, string comparison. String comparison dot. See, what is the correct one in this scenario? I've always wondered. So from a, see, that's the one that I was going for. I was going to say ordinal. That's what I was going to do. I'm not lying either. That would have been my first guess. $107. So close. Remove the underscores. So we specifically don't want to do that. So that is on project core. So what was it? No warn? What was it? 1707. So we have it for some of them, but not others. So that would be on this one then. I'm going to take out the serial log one just now. And then I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go into this one. I'm going to say that one. And then I'm going to go into this one. And I'm going to say this one. Oh, What's the errors now? Oh, what did I do? No overload for method contains takes 2 arguments. Good shout. Are you going to go away? Oh, very confused. So it is. Well, that would be ever so slightly annoying. Look at that. So if we were to put this back to but then it can't do the comparison. Oh, I see. That would be problematic. Okay, it's getting to the end of my slot for this evening, so we're gonna have to call this quits. But that was a good shout though, Artur, on that. For now though, how many files have we changed? A lot. So let's, when do we add that? That's a job for a different day, not in this one. What was that? Job for a different day. Global suppressions, rule set. Okay, so this was all for GH hyphen, what was the issue number? 258, 285, 285. StyleCop and EditorConfig, all the things. Right, let's commit that. So in other words, Patrik, love it. So for now, let's do a git push origin so that it's up there, and then I can come back and finish this off. I wasn't going to make a PR yet because it's not ready, but we could do. If so, I can look into name. Oh, well, we can do. So GHPR-H. So we can do a create -H. We can do it with draft, fine. That's what I was looking for. --draft. What does that do? Title. Sure. E to launch Notepad, enter to skip. Let's just do that. Submit. Submit. What does that do? Look at that. But then I can do GHPR list. Then I can do GHPR 286 view. Don't know why I typed version there. Is it view? Oh, is it the other way around? Sorry. View 286 -- web. How does it know? So it did it as a draft. Look at that. I'll put you on it so that you're there, and you're going to look at, so I can look into the naming thing. Okay, perfect. That'd be great. I will continue working away and fixing the errors and warnings and stuff. But this has been good fun. I've enjoyed this evening, learnt a lot. So we're now got EditorConfig file up and running. We've got StyleCop up and running. We've got the Roslinator as analyzers kicking in. We've figured out how to override certain things in there. And you can add a review request by adding, oh really? So in that, I saw the option for meta. Interesting. See, it's better. And like I say, I was blown away when it did the, was it the issue creation or the PR creation? It brought up the template, and you could fill in the template. That was otherworld stuff. That one. So no, this has been good. I've enjoyed it. And while I have you, Kim, you mentioned that soonish you'll be looking at cake.recipe. Is that fair? Because like I say, my intention is to take what we have with cake.recipe and attempt to convert one of the cake add-ins to 2.0. So that will help generate the documentation for updating to that release. And then I kind of want to get it out. So I'm not putting any pressure on, but what sort of time frame are we talking about in terms of you looking at the outstanding .NET Core issues? It's fine to say, Gary, go away and stop annoying me, but it's on my list quite high up. Okay, so genuinely, I don't know when I'll get to that documentation. I would like, tomorrow night I'm busy, I've got stuff on tomorrow night, so realistically it won't be until the latter part of the week. So that's my sort of timescale in doing the documentation for the changes there. So plan within the next couple of days. Okay, cool. So let's meet in the middle, or we'll come together and online and see where we get to, because I think it's very close. It's very close to getting a release out. And do you still? I don't think we do we? I think that part of it's all done, isn't it? I think the cake.issues report and generic side's all done and dusted. It's more issues specifically with running cake.recipe under cake.tool. So obviously under the .NET Core execution. So what was this one? This was latest missing. Oh. So I need to draw it a close, but let's chat offline, Kim, and we'll see where we get to. And Artur, if you're wanting to continue that PR for getting the template in, that would be great. And then you also mentioned that you might be looking at the Spectre CLI. Is that still on your near-term to-do list? Because if it is, that would be great. Perfect. Okay, so let's continue working on the template-based one and get that merged in, and then we can dig in from there. Patrik just released a new version. So I've thought about Spectre Console, but I would see that as that's a different day as well. So there's Spectre Console and there's Spectre CLI, but Spectre CLI now embeds Spectre Console, I think. So, or the other way around, I forget which way it is. So Spectre Console is pretty cool. I mean, that's where I was stealing the EditorConfig file from. We bring this up. Spectre Console is all about generating the ability. He's got the ability to do tables and outputting tables and all sorts of clever stuff. So maybes, not today. I would see it as Spectre CLI, implement Spectre CLI in terms of the command pattern, getting that done, and then we can maybe look at using Spectre Console for generating some of the output. So maybe make a Serialog sync for it. Ooh. Then we can easily, oh, that sounds interesting. But yeah, I mean, what he's got going on in terms of controlling the layout, controlling the tables, embedding tables within tables, it's quite powerful. So, but that's a different. Anyway, I'm going down a little rabbit hole here, so we need to stop. So that was. We've all got things to do. I think we've all got things that we can be working on. So that's a good place to be. For now, I'm going to switch off and I'm going to copy this file over onto my other machine, and then I am done for the evening. So thank you all for coming along. I hope it's been useful. I know it's been useful for me. So I'm glad to have hung out tonight. Have a good one. Next week will either be more of this, or depending on how things are with Kick.recipe, we might ship something. We'll cross that bridge. And yeah, have a good night, everyone, and stay away from the COVID. All right, talk to you later.